But you can see sitting off to my right, your left on the screen here, Furman head football coach Clay Hendrix. Normally we don't have guests at the top of the hour, but if the man says this is when I can go, this is when we go. He throws that kind of weight around this place.
I don't
Now,
know
now,
about,
now, if you were 3-8, maybe not so much.
maybe
But
not, I'll remember that. So,
no, you know better than that. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Doing well. It's been a little different January, just because of the early signing date. We'll sign 6 more guys a week from today. Hadn't had to be on the road a lot. A lot of times in January you're spending, well, you may still be trying to recruit kids, but you're doing a lot of babysitting. Hadn't had to do a lot of that. So it's been nice to be here with our players, spend a little more time with them, be a little more in the weight room and getting ready for spring practice.
Or winter practice, as it may turn out, right?
So it's always a good time. It's always fun to start practice and got a bunch of guys back. So obviously we're in a little different situation we were a year ago, but need to make a lot of progress.
Why the early spring practice?
Well, I think first and foremost, our calendar here, we have a really early spring break. I think actually the first full week of March. When you look back at it, and then I saw where we were recruiting, the thought was, can we get it in before spring break and not have to split it up? I'm not crazy about splitting it up, getting them back afterwards. And so we thought we could. Injuries, weather, a couple things can affect that. But and then we'd like to be able to come back after spring break and just go as hard as we can, weight room, speed and strength stuff throughout the rest of the school year, because I think that is an area we have got to make some great progress in. We got to get better as a football team, but that's the way we felt like was best for us to handle both. And a little bit, you get a guy dinged up, maybe you have an injury, which is part of our game. A little more time to recover, all those things. But and then we had a little more time to prep, and very little staff change. We certainly have changed some things within our systems, but we think we can, hit the ground running. We're obviously way ahead of where we were a year ago.
Over 75 players, I think, returning who are here on campus. 16 starters, I believe, coming back. At least that's guys that ended up as starters from a year ago when the season ended. So it's a veteran group that you have coming back, and it's kind of funny to say that because some of those guys are going to be sophomores, but we're pressed into playing a lot of football. But the biggest holes that you have to fill are your best production spots, pretty much on the offensive side of the ball.
That's true. We are still a young, somewhat experienced group, but quite young, and that really, I think that's why the strength and conditioning is such a big part of what we're doing. I thought when we got, you've heard me say this, when we got exposed a few times a year ago, we got knocked around a little bit, and a lot of that was young, immature bodies, maybe even some older guys that weren't quite as mature bodies as they should be. We've got some good frames to work with. We got a lot of work to do in that regard.
Yeah. To that point, before we move on to some other things, as most people know, we had him on the show on Monday. David Abernathy, the strength and conditioning coach, is leaving to go into private business here, so the search is on for the person who will fill that position. Now, he's over the entire school's athletic department, strength and conditioning, but primarily works with the football team first. At least that's how it is at most schools for the head strength and conditioning coach. How much of an input, if any, will you have in the hiring process?
Well, that's one of the reasons I had to be on at 10 a.m. this morning. That process is already underway. I would hope maybe early next week we've got somebody in place. Really, really strong pool of candidates, some really good candidates here as well. So yeah, I'm part of the committee, but certainly that is a huge part. I think everybody here, our administration, understand the importance, really to everyone, but especially to the football program. And I'm a big picture guy, I like to think, and this is an important hire for Furman, for everybody. Got all those sports that rely on that, and that person has got to be it's kind of I guess the head coach of strength and conditioning, and they've got to be able to get people underneath them that understand everybody has the same vision, and got a lot of sports you have to take care of, and I understand that. So again, just trying to get the very best person we think that's the very best fit, for Furman and certainly for Furman football.
As people know, you have been at this for a long time. Player, coach, the years are adding up now.
Unfortunately,
but with that comes the benefit of a lot of experience, and that's where I'm heading with this thing. It's a positive.
Yeah.
You've seen strength and conditioning coaches. You've seen every aspect of this sport during your career. So in your mind, in this day and age, right now where we are, what makes a good strength and conditioning coach?
Well, I think this is a huge hire for our program, and and this is just such a huge part of what we do, and I think it's again, somebody has a similar vision, certainly a team guy. We're all on the same page. David did a great job here, really loyal guy, and it was a huge advantage to have a guy like him in that position when I came back, and because we didn't change anything there. We had already addressed some things we wanted to change, maybe do things a little bit different, just as how we train going forward. He had actually already started that process. I've had tons of calls. Certainly it's a little different from hiring a position coach, but I think you follow the same agenda, so to speak. Somebody who can understand Furman, because we are a unique institution. Sell the heck out of positives. We have a really nice facility. You get to work with great kids, but also finding somebody with energy who can motivate those kids, and we want them to be excited. I think one of the things we've changed, I know football wise, and it's been obvious to me, just the way kids going to practice. I think they kind of enjoy going to practice, and you want to be the same way there. Now, you like to handle that in recruiting. You ask that coach, does he like to lift in high school? Because if he doesn't, he probably doesn't want to lift for us either. But, just getting kids excited about getting in there, getting better, going forward, and finding somebody who can do that. So that certainly makes it a challenge.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out, and obviously once it's done, we'll be on top of that here as well. Right as the show began, the football schedule for next year was officially released. The 3 non-conference games come right out of the chute. This little school right up the road here is where Paladin's open, September 1st. My wedding anniversary, my 29th anniversary will be spent at Clemson. And then back to Elon. I guess this is a rubber match. And then Colgate here, and then everything else is conference play.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at that first one. That's our kids will be excited about going over there and play. Obviously, an unbelievably huge challenge. I told Connor Shaw that was the primary reason we hired him. We're going to try to keep his streak going. But that'd be a huge challenge, But that'd be a good exciting for our kids to go play. But certainly a huge challenge. You go to Elon. Playoff team that probably one of the better teams picked in that league. Back up there, certainly be a challenge. You play Colgate, I don't know if people realize, they ended up winning the Patriot League. They were co-champions with, I think, Lehigh. Lehigh got the automatic bid. So not any favors done to us there to start it out and then roll right into conference play. But, we're excited. And, I know we released it today. I'd gotten kind of the gist of it, a few weeks ago about who and or when and where, conference wise. But it'll certainly be a challenge for us.
Just my first glance at this conference schedule, I would have to think that things broke pretty well for the Paladins this year. The open up conference portion of your schedule, add an improving ETSU team. No question, but should be favored there. The only other 2 road games are at the Citadel and at VMI. Everything else is here at Paladin Stadium.
Well, I guess it's not showing. We're at Mercer, I think, week 11.
Okay,
that not make it?
No, they must have clipped it. Oh, okay, there it is. You can barely see it. So,
yeah.
all right. So
I knew we didn't. I knew it. We've got to change this. This 5 home game stuff. And I know Mike, buddy. I've talked to Mike about it, and he's certainly on board. So much of this schedule is done way in advance. So it's a little bit of it is what it is, and there's not a whole lot you can do to fix it except looking forward. And I would like to get to where we can play 6 home games at some point here in our place.
Yeah, right at the bottom of that graphic, you're right. I'm looking at online at FurmanPalace.com, and the November 17th game at Mercer is hidden. But beyond that, you go to ETSU, and then it's 3 straight and 4 out of 5 here at Paladin Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly love playing here. I know one of the things we impressed upon our kids was taking back our home field advantage, which for many, many years it was a true home field advantage. We played extremely well here, and I think we kind of got going that way last year, after I guess the first home game. So it certainly is nice to be able to play here. A mixture, we got, I guess, a couple of new staffs in the league. Some other guys. FCS is a little different. Somebody picks up a quarterback transfer, and somebody can sometimes go from maybe not being as much expected from them. There can be a couple of difference makers. I'm sure, I noticed the kid went to Jacksonville State from Clemson. I'm sure there are a lot of people in the OVC thinking, well, they won't be as good, and there's no guarantee that they get the guy, but they went from not having a quarterback to having a pretty good player.
Yeah.
That's what's a little bit unique, especially, at a position like that. But no, it'll be, I've learned every week will be a challenge. I think the key for us just is to see if we can go out here and improve a little bit each day, and and then continue to improve throughout the off season, as we get heading back into the fall.
This is Furman head coach Clay Hendrix joining us here. Spring practice starts Friday, so it gives us a chance to kind of preview that and catch up on some other things. And one of the things I wanted to get to, you referenced a moment ago, and that was the hiring of Connor Shaw as your tight ends coach. How did that come about? And just knowing what I think everybody knows about this young man, it would seem that this is going to be a great addition to your staff.
Yeah, well, it really all started when Drew had the opportunity to go to Lenore Ryan's head coach, and really, I think a year ago my plan was a little bit having a couple of guys in place with him and George, and that we felt like there would be no change whatsoever in what we did. Really the plan was put the system in place, and I'm a little bit of that. One of the things Coach Saban, I think the job he's done there has been pretty amazing with the staff turnover they had. Mm-hmm. But I've tried to take a little bit of his approach from a standpoint of, you get your system in place, and you lose a coach, the system doesn't go away, and you don't. So we would like to kind of plug into that system, as we go. Promoted George, and he kind of at the time said, Coach, quarterbacks. And I said, well, I think I'd really like to have you with those quarterbacks. But what I'd like to do is get a quarterback background guy in that tight end position, which is essentially what George did last year. He never coached tight ends, but he'd coached quarterbacks. But I wasn't in any hurry to do anything because I felt like we could recruit, do all those things. And then, when I finally got around to the point, okay, let's talk to some guys. I've known Connor's dad forever, actually competed against his dad both in high school and here in the conference, and knew of him. He had come out and done a little team share time devotion for us during the season. I think maybe the first time I'd ever actually met him. And then Brian and he and Brian Bratton are friends, and his name came up. He'd been thinking about coaching. I said, well, let's get him over here and talk to us.
Yeah.
And, and it was pretty obvious to me right from the start he was our kind of guy. He's just a fit. He's just our kind of guy, the things we look for. I mean, obviously, if you ever saw him play, I've learned he's a cult hero in the state of South Carolina, particularly if you're a Gamecock fan. But just people had so much respect for how he played. Really, really bright. he's had some unique experiences, I guess, with those four different teams. I mean, 4 years he spent in the NFL. And really up until even, I don't know, a month ago or so, he still had some people calling him about continuing to play. And, we talked to a number of guys, and we just felt like he clearly was the best candidate for what we needed. He's been with us. It's been nice this month to be able to try to get him caught up. And, he hadn't coached, and I've told him, he's probably a little more apprehensive than I am, but he's really smart. My philosophy is a little bit hire smart guys that are good workers and provide a little leadership for them, and it's kind of interesting to watch him develop. And I've already seen that about him, and I think the fact that he's coaching now what George had coached, I think will kind of put those guys in a room together as we start in the spring.
Right.
Because it's all new to him. Coaching's a little different than playing, just like recruiting when you've never done it. And I think we'll take the same approach this spring. Get him involved with a couple other guys, where maybe he gets to shadow him for a day or two.
Yeah.
But he'll do a great job for us.
But when Brian Bratton joined this staff in the couple of years prior to getting here, I said this, and I think the same thing holds true for Connor. Brian, because of what he did here at this university and then in his professional career, and Connor for what he did at South Carolina and just the toughness and everything that goes along with him. He may not have the coaching experience, but he walks in here with a whole bunch of what the kids call street cred. He comes in with that football credibility.
Well, no question about that. And, we put him on the board a little bit, and I knew he was bright. And, some of the things we were looking for, how do we advance what we've been doing offensively, and where do we want to go? And I think you've always got to be, I don't know if changing is the right word, but tweaking. And, I don't think you can evolve. Good word. But we just got to continue to evolve. And I knew he could bring something to the table. I wanted another quarterback guy on our staff. I felt like there was a time we could trade off, help George out a little bit in that regard at practice. Certainly his background, he has a great background in that. And, but it's been a really good fit. And I expect it only to get better.
Yeah.
As we go. Great family. He's a local guy. There was no move involved. He's got two young ones, and it's been great.
Well, we will continue to watch it, but just expecting it to be nothing but a fantastic move for this team. Last couple of minutes before we let you go here. With a year under your belt now, how much, I don't know if easier is the right word, but how different, I guess, has this offseason been for you than coming in at the breakneck speed you had to come in last year?
Well, it's a lot different. I heard George talking, we had a bunch of guys that were living out of their offices last year. And I don't know, everybody's family's here. I think that's maybe the biggest thing. Everybody's so much more settled. Having a chance, the systems were already in place. Now, we did do quite a bit of change, and one of the things I didn't like, we kind of blew up our terminology system on offense. I wanted to reach, we did it last year for a reason. We tried to make it as simple, especially for Drew, because he was calling new things, but in ways he knew them, and I was fine with that. But I just wanted to start back over. I thought it was a little bit easier we could come up with a better way to teach kids, make it a little easier for them to learn. So we've been busy with that. I knew we'd recruit well if we had a year to do it, and I think recruiting's gone really well. This time last year we were still scrambling around trying to put a class together. So it has just been, it's been significantly better. Our kids, I mean, just every part of it has been. It was a great year, and golly, it's hard to believe a year's gone. It's hard to believe it's been a year.
Yeah.
My wife said something the other day about hard to believe we've been back here over a year, which I have been. They didn't move until I think March last year, but it was a fun time, and we're excited about the future. And we just can't. We just got to keep progressing.
Yeah.
And everything we do, that's coaches, development, players, recruiting. I've said this, fundraising, just the way we operate, everything that we do. But it's an exciting time.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of which, fundraising, as we get set to wrap it up, you got the second anonymous gift, $1 million gift that is going to continue to help you do the things you need to do in the operation of this program. There seems to be a lot of momentum right now heading in the right direction. And I guess the two keys are, A, keep it going that way, and B, be able to capitalize on it.
No doubt. There's a fine line, between good years and great years and okay years and good years. And, it was called, we started that whole championship fund. I mean, we've been playing football around here for a long time, and we've played a lot of championship football. Not all the time, but that's what we want to play. We want to play championship football. And we want to be, I remember sitting in that press conference after that Wofford game over there, and, I knew we didn't play our best. And, I kept, I didn't say it, but I'm like, we'll be back. We'll be back. That's our plans. We want to get back in that situation again. And, you watch those better teams in our league, and we've got to close the gap, and just address the issues that we have and focus on those. And it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're that far behind. I really don't, but at the end of the day, football is a little different, especially a basketball, where there's only a certain number of games. They all mean a lot. And if it's one game, the difference between you getting in the playoff field and not, we got to give ourselves every chance to get back there again.
Spring practice opens on Friday. A week from today is the second and the traditional signing day. That's when the signing period opens. And you'll be at the American Burger Company from 12 to 2, right?
That is what I'm understanding. I think we finally got that settled yesterday as far as a time. I think they'll make an announcement about that. And, we'll cover, I guess, the 16 guys. We again, still plan on, trying to sign another group here next week. We took the 3 transfer kids that they're doing well already here. Maybe just kind of cover them, but good chance to get caught up on that for everybody.
A lot going on. It never stops. It's year-round, and this guy is doing a phenomenal job. Clay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you having me.